It is a fantastic day to just show up. Hi, everyone. Yvonne Heath here, nurse turned author, speaker, and changemaker, and your host. Welcome to Navigating Grief with Heart and Humor, where we talk about, plan, and prepare for grief, transitions, end of life, all the messiness in between, long before it arrives, and diffuse the fear so we can live fully now. We talk about hard stuff. We define grief and mourning and bereavement and what are the transitions in life and how we can create grief and joy, or how we can allow it. That's what we're going to talk about today. So I am so honored to spend this time with you. We are all teachers and we are all students. I am learning each and every day as I meet more and more incredible souls on this earth, on this journey we call life, that also want to do it differently so we can all live, grieve, and die well. So let's get started. As always, I like to share a fun fact. I want to bring my message with heart, humor, and humanness because it's already serious enough. My fun fact today is that this shirt is the very shirt that I wore on when I did my TEDx talk in May 2019. And I also have these little double heart earrings. And this is the month that I was preparing to do my talk. Well, this month and many, many months before. It was exhilarating, terrifying. I spoke to so many incredible people that helped me to define a message in 14 minutes and 30 seconds or whatever it is that could have an impact. And I have to say, once again, we are all capable of so much more than we've ever possibly imagined, because I never, ever, ever, ever had any interest in speaking on a stage. I did not want to speak in front of my class. I took a 0 instead of speaking in front of my class. So for me to be able to get from that point to television and radio and keynote speaking all over North America has been extraordinary. And of course, doing my TEDx talk, that moment was incredible. And to this date, I am extremely proud to say that there are over 19,000 views. And, that just to me speaks volumes. And those 19 people who have seen my talk, and you can't unhear what you've heard, right? You can't unhear it. And so they've heard the message and perhaps they've shared it with others. And so this is just a really wonderful moment and time for me. I always like to pull out my shirt and say, oh, remember that. And so that is my fun, wonderful fact to share with you today, because I am just celebrating getting over my own fear to become the very best version of myself and to do so much more than I ever thought possible. So you can too. And if you ever want to do a TEDx talk, we can have a conversation about that. Because we all have a story to tell, don't we? We all have a story to tell. So on that note, I'm going to just, or before we begin our conversation today, I'm going to settle in, settle down, forget about the noise out there, my ritual of just being fully present for our time together. I always want to be very intentional about what I share. This means a lot to me that you would take the time out of your life to spend these few moments with me. And perhaps you can create a ritual to just quiet the noise in your head, out there, all the other things that are pulling you away, because this is what you have chosen to do. This is what you need to do to fill your heart and soul today. And I invite you to create an intention. What do you need to hear today? And a ritual of just landing here for a time together. So for me, I always close my eyes. I take very intentional inhale through my nose and exhale through my mouth. And as I'm exhaling, I let go of all the rest and all that does not serve me. And my intention is to be very fully present and share something that You need to hear, that I need to share, so that we can both learn together today. So I invite you to join me or create whatever ritual works best for you. So I'm closing my eyes. I invite you to do the same. I'm going to take 2 slow, deep inhales and then exhales. In through my nose, out through my mouth. And one more time. Out through my mouth. I'm opening my eyes. These rituals, these moments can truly make a difference throughout your day, no matter what. When you feel like you're short-circuiting, if you can take that moment, whether it's 30 seconds, 1 minute or more, to just quiet down the central nervous system and just have a moment of peace, I promise you, it's a great practice to have throughout life. So, okay, let's get started. I have been, as I've shared, I've been reviewing some of the first episodes that I shared, and in doing so, I realize I'm constantly learning, unlearning, and evolving. And I shared, and I want to continue to talk about allowing and inviting grief, or gratitude and grief. Gratitude and grief. And I would say acknowledge and allow all feelings, your feelings, other people's feelings, and I say allow gratitude no matter what we are going through. And I want to say yes, and I also want to invite gratitude. I want to be very intentional about looking for, seeking things to be grateful for, not missing the little things, that when you hear little things mean a lot. Yes, actually, they actually really do. And as many of us get on autopilot and we're busy. And that is, I will no longer, no matter what I'm doing in my life, I will not say, oh, I'm so busy. Because when I am too busy, I am intentional about saying, what can I do to change this? Because that just perpetuates this anxiety and that frenetic feeling. I have so much to do. And yes, we all have many things we can do. And one of the things that creates our excessive suffering is the belief. Because we hear, you can do it all, you can have it all. No, you can't. No, actually, you can do many things. And I mean, yes, you can have a family and a career, and yes, and you cannot do it all. I mean, our choices, it's incredible. Our choices are limitless. And it's like, wow, isn't that incredible? And yet, for many of us, that is anxiety provoking because we want to do it all. Well, we all have the same amount of hours in a day. And so what we need to do is accept that we can't do it all and prioritize what has the most value, what is the most meaningful that I can do to feed my heart and soul. I mean, I would love to take singing lessons and jog every day and go to the gym and do yoga and garden and tidy this and spend time with the kids and go visit family and all of these things, and then get self-care in there and share my message and all of these other things. Well, yes, those are all wonderful things. It's not always things that are negative that are pulling us away. It's the, oh, I want to do all these things and I can't. You're right. So let's accept that. And there's even some grief. There is grief in that, actually, right? There is grief in having to let go of the things that we've prioritized. And there's chapters in our lives, right? Like whatever chapter you're in. I mean, if you have infants, you have little children, and they're in all kinds of activities, and you're working, and that isn't the time to go on monthly retreats for 5 days. I mean, that's unrealistic. we have to prioritize in the chapter of our lives that we are in. And right now, speaking of gratitude and grief, I will continue to share because we are helping our children prepare, Jane and Tanner, our twins, to leave for university. And they're doing that in only a very few months, which I have no problem allowing my grief and seeing the gratitude in all of it. However, I do have to check in right now and not allow too much grief, because if the waterworks start, if that dam breaks right now, you just won't be able to understand what I'm saying. You know, my voice becomes very high and pitchy and I'll be crying. So I kind of laugh at myself as well. And so I will not push away my grief. I just put it beside me for right now. I know you're just sitting right there. And after this wonderful time that I'm spending with you, perhaps I'll just let it go, just unleash. However, again, I know that this time in my life, in our lives, this is the absolute number one priority. There is nothing, this isn't the time for us to travel across North America. This isn't the time to be busy each and every day, because we have this, wow, double whammy, 2 children going off to university. There are many, many, many things to do. So that has to be the number one priority. Now, I'll stop myself right there. My number one priority is just showing up for myself first, being very intentional about my self-care, being very intentional about getting up earlier and having that time to meditate, to connect, to work out whatever I need before everyone gets up, because I know once the ball gets rolling, it becomes very busy. I also know that at this time, I need to be very, very intentional about checking in mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it, because there is an anxiety that lurks in thinking that our children are going away, and what about the finances and all of that. So I'm being extra intentional. So at those times of transition are the times to really settle in, really take those moments. Okay, that 1 minute of closing your eyes and just checking in and allowing your feelings, allowing space, allowing safe space, creating safe space to let all those hard feelings out, grief, joy, and all of it. And, well, joy, you can, everyone loves people when they're joyful. The grief and the joy and the gratitude. And so to become very intentional, no matter what we are going through, no matter what we are facing, whether it's the dying process, the death of a loved one, or companioning them in the dying process, something tragic has happened in your family, in your community. Take moments to just settle in. Take moments where you can to allow gratitude in the cracks, to allow in your grief process, in your grief journey, bring gratitude along with you wherever you go. I love Brene Brown. Everybody who has watched any of her TED Talks or video Netflix special, I invite you to watch it. And Brene, like me, has spoken to people who have been in the most horrific situations in the world, genocide or visiting orphanages, war-torn countries, just as Patch Adams does, as well as I have spoken to so many, John Westhaver, and people whose children have died, and their lives, they chose to find purpose, find meaning, be a light in the world so that others may see in their darkness. Obviously not right in that moment of excruciating tragedy. However, how they created a life worth living again was by being grateful for their lives. And, you know, when we've been through tragedy, if we do not get mired in the why did this happen? Why? There will never be an answer that's good enough, right? When someone who is young or a child dies, what answer could be good enough? There isn't. And so I accept that. We don't have to like it. If we can accept, and I do, I have my strong belief about life and death, or my acceptance. We're all here as long as we're here. I don't know why some people are here for 5 minutes, some are here for 5 years, others 10 years, others 105 years. I don't know. Whatever that may be, that is their full life. And so if we can, again, continue to create that foundation for ourselves, and it's always a yes, and is it easier said than done? Absolutely, yes. And if we get torn up and stuck, my friend Maria Kleofkoff says we pitch our tents in grief. We cannot honor the lives of those we loved who died physically. We cannot create that spiritual connection, that spiritual relationship, because we are so stuck. And one of the ways that we can become unstuck is acknowledging our grief, allowing our grief, and being intentional about gratitude and finding things to be grateful for. Obviously, when you think of horrific situations, war, genocide, whatever it may be, and the gratitude, and I remember hearing this conversation of this group of women after there's horrific things happened in their village, and their gratitude was that they were grateful for those who lived. They were grateful for the help from other communities from around the world. They could sing together, they could cry together, they could laugh and love and support one another, and they were grateful for that. And even in our everyday lives, we get to choose. We get to reframe things. We get to say, oh, instead of saying, I have to do this, I have to work at the hospital, I have to go see my sick loved one. Perhaps we can reframe and say, I get to do this. I get to go to the hospital and support others and find ways to be grateful. I'm so grateful that I have the coping skills and strategies, and I continue to learn, unlearn, and evolve. And I have a supportive environment. And if you do not, what can you do to change that? And I am grateful for online, all of the support and all the learning that I can find there. So when I do not have time, or I do not have a supportive physical village, I can reach out online. And for that person who has a dying loved one, I'm grateful for the care they're receiving. I am grateful for others who are supporting them and supporting me. I am grateful that I found it within myself to acknowledge and allow my feelings and to reach out for help, and people are saying yes. I am sad that they are dying, and I'm grateful for their lives. I am grateful that I know that we can continue our relationship in a spiritual way. I will honor this person. In memory of them, I will live my life fully. I will keep their memories alive. I will share stories. I am grateful that I can share those memories forever. No matter what, I believe, as Patch Adams says, that gratitude is one of his greatest and most important medicines. And I've shared that I have a ritual each and every day. I usually actually do it in the morning and at night. Name 10 things I am grateful for. I name 10 things that I am grateful for each and every day. And on my hardest days, it's a struggle sometimes. And yet I know that no matter what I am going through, this is a chapter in my life, and it is temporary. And all the good things in my life are still present. I think sometimes when we are just so overcome or consumed with something tragic or grief, we forget about all the other things that are still present in our lives. We forget to be grateful for them. We forget to acknowledge them, remember them. We just push everything else aside. And also, elephant in the room, as Maria and I were speaking about, sometimes when a loved one dies or something tragic happens, we feel that how stuck we are in our grief, how long we suffer, reflects how much we loved that person. And that isn't so. That isn't so. It's even like when someone dies and the husband or wife remarries, they find someone else, and they feel guilty. Other people may be judging and saying, oh, I guess they didn't love them that much. Well, that isn't so. No, that isn't so. I'll argue that. We have an infinite capacity to be compassionate. We have an infinite capacity to love. And for someone who died, that we love, my goodness, don't we want to be so grateful that they were in our lives? And wouldn't it be wonderful, a wonderful way to honor them, to be the evidence that their lives made a difference, and honor them by creating a life worth living again? We do not honor those who have died by being stuck in our grief forever. We just become another person who died, whether we have a pulse or not. I know that's hard to hear. I know that's hard to hear. Staying stuck in grief does not reflect how much you loved a person. Finding joy and gratitude and being grateful for your life is not dishonoring that person or their lives or their struggle, whatever it may be. We can be the evidence that someone's life made a difference. We can find joy in our lives again and continue to share their memory, their story, and be so grateful. And we can allow the grief, and it's a roller coaster. Sometimes we feel grief heavier, and we need to sit and allow it. And it's a yes, and we can allow the joy. Grief and joy can coexist. And allow gratitude to come and be intentional. Be intentional. I look around this room, and it's interesting because I think that sometimes we see people and think, oh, everything's going so smoothly in their lives. I have all kinds of things, grief, transitions, things going on in my life, but I make room for the grief. And I also make room for joy. And I remember to be grateful. I am grateful to be a part of Win-Win Women. I am grateful to spend this time with you. I'm grateful for my little fabulous studio here. There's so much to be grateful for. And I'm actually grateful that I have learned these lessons, because I have been all consumed by grief in the past, and almost to the point where I didn't even know if I could ever find joy again. It's really frightening. It's a scary place to land, and I know many of us have been there. And we get it. I do. And here's the thing. You do not have to do this alone. However we have navigated grief, transitions, end of life in the past, we can do it differently moving forward. for those who are around us who don't understand, how we can be grateful or find joy in our lives again when we've been through excruciating loss, crisis, trauma. It's okay. It's okay that they don't understand. Find that supportive village that will support you. Because we don't understand. Our society, obviously we know we are reactive, not proactive. We do not know. We do not know how to live, grieve, and die well. Right? We see death as failure. We see moving on as something that isn't a good thing. And so that was in the past. And now we can all learn together. We can learn to acknowledge and allow our grief and be very intentional about looking for and allowing gratitude and joy along the way. And to me, that is a wonderful way to honor our journey and to honor those who have either had a life-limiting diagnosis, a life-altering accident, someone who has died, whatever it may be. We are still living, and how we can continue to move forward and eliminate the excessive suffering we create by avoiding and wanting to fix everything. It's by allowing our grief, our gratitude and joy, and normalizing these conversations as we move forward together. We can do this differently. And I thank you for being a part of the change. Every time you have a conversation that is leaning towards, let's do this differently. How can I do this differently? This scares me. Being vulnerable, being real, being authentic, being flawed. You're being a part of the change. And I am here to support you every step of the way as we navigate this journey we call life. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with me. I invite you to explore all of the wonderful shows, so many beautiful, beautiful hosts on Win-Win Women, so that no matter what life throws at you, there's someone that can support you. And I have my website, loveyourlifetodeath.com. I have many resources. Watch my TEDx talk. Woohoo! It's all about learning how to just show up for yourself and each other. And it's truly a privilege and an honor to have these conversations. And so I invite you each and every day, look for little things, big things to be grateful for. Be very intentional. Allow your grief, joy, and bring that gratitude in. And I would love to hear all the little things and the big things that you are grateful for. And I am grateful for you for just showing up. So thank you again. And my call to action, as always, if we want to be able to do this differently so that we can live, grieve, and die well, if we want to support each other, no matter what life throws at us, and we want to allow joy and gratitude, we must start with this. Plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. Thank you so much. I love you with all my heart. Mwah. Sending love. Feel free to connect anytime. Bye for now.